very beginning, we wanted to create a narrative that where each of the performers could tell their own story, a very private story, yet in the context of a much larger story, hopefully a much more universal story that everyone could relate to.
I think I wanted to know from the three of you, since I've talked to you, kind of what you're thinking, so that we can weave everything together, because I know that it's going to be somewhat like vignettes.
Yeah.
And then they will all be woven together somehow. So that the feeling of that piece, the reason I say this too is, and maybe you might want to have meetings just with Goyo to go over music.
So assembling an ensemble now to find out what the instrumentation is going to be like. There will be acoustic components and there will be electronic components. It's not going to be heavy on the electronics. It will be more electronic manipulation of the acoustic material. I approach this like a film score where you have a theme. Every performer has a theme, and that theme will be prevalent when you are, highlighted on the stage. And actually the themes will intersect and weave together as the characters weave together as well.
Yeah.
And it might be in a very subtle way. It might be stretched out, so it really happens just subconsciously. But it will happen.
Yeah, because that's what Shannon's doing. She's kind of developing a piece, and then she's coming to me and saying, okay, in this piece, this is what I would like you to do.
Yeah, like you're going to play a role in kind of helping establish my character and stuff, and I mean, we can talk more about that. But it's going to be like me on trapeze. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to do more of a ground piece with you.
Okay, that's what I was kind of wondering about. And I think it'd be cool maybe to like explore a totally different apparatus and maybe not even a big thing or something to incorporate into a duo. I don't know, that's just an idea, but we can talk more about that.
Yeah. So, Carl, how did you come up with anything? You had mentioned a few different things that seemed kind of exciting.
I don't know. Like I said last time, I think the site visit is really key for me. Because it's just the inspiration comes when you're actually like looking at the angles and like more just daydreaming around it, and then it's just like, oh, there's that image. Okay, great, let's do it.
Michael, what do you feel? How you see your individual piece? Maybe you want to direct us to do things in it. Maybe you want it to be a complete solo. Like how, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Because I trust your vision, and also I'd like to go into the fragile flesh piece with you and really go into that investigation.
Awesome, yeah. I would like that too.
Yeah.
My experience is mostly inspired through Butoh dance. I first saw images of it many years ago and was instantly captivated by the form. And before that, I had no dance background. So that's what started my journey with dance. And since then, I have incorporated acrobatic work into what I do. So to kind of heighten the aliveness with movement, I incorporate extreme back bends and flexibility into what I do. And that's what I'll be experimenting with in this piece. It's a combination of the intense emotional aspect that Butoh seems to cater so well to, and the physical and mental discipline that the contortion work has. So it's a strong relationship between the two. And I'm very excited to be experimenting with that. And the duet piece that I'm involved with, Anastazia, it's more choreographed than it is improvised, although there's lots of space for improvisation. And that piece feels very intimate and very alive. And we've known each other for many years now, and we work very well together. There's a sense of fluidity and ease.
If you're doing some of the collaborations, is it possible for me to be present and taking notes and also improvising while you're performing?
Well, that's what I would prefer. I mean, you already know the piece that we're doing, and basically, I think we're just going to investigate that piece, and you're going to compose the music for it. So it's really necessary that we just start moving together, and you start playing. After that moment. I want to have in each of our pieces a little bit of an opening, because I want every performance to be its own.
Yeah.
You know, choreographed or not. Just because that's one of the major things about a Bad Unkl Sista piece, is that you just never know what's going to happen. So I like to leave those windows so that something new can happen.
Sure.
Because if it's just, well, it's this and this and this and we're done, it's like, yeah, but what about what this and this and this bring up each night? Yeah, in the description, I was starting to put, you know, we all have the experience of our first breath, and we all, you know, live every breath in between with the expectation of the last.
Yeah.
Bad Unkl Sista performances are their own creature. Yeah, they use the white paint, they use a certain base, but like we were talking about the other day, it's not Butoh. I mean, there is that element, but there's also so many more elements to it, you know. Yeah. But the white paint and the costume is specific to what to my personal aesthetic, that I want to stay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying to stay away from calling it a Butoh performance piece.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that we probably will be doing a lot of rehearsing here, even though it's a small space, because here is where the piano is. Because, you know, we're having a sculpture on stage, which is this round I-beam, and we're going to have that put up in this room.
That's this 11-foot diameter sculpture.
Yeah.
Which is just a curved I-beam with a motorized chair that's attached to it. And then you turn it on and come around for 3 minutes and stops. And so we had the idea, why not have it interact with a stationary object? Well, what better stationary object than the piano? It's the heaviest instrument we're going to have. What Shrine's going to do is he's going to build a wall in the middle of it. Because it was built to go out of one window and in another in a building. And so we're going to set it right on stage. And it's just, so he's going to build something in the middle so someone can go around and then weave that into the piece as well. So,
on the production side, we've never done anything this large. This started off as a dream, as a vision. Why not?
Do we see you on the backside of that orbit, or are you going through a wall and back through a wall?
very good question, because originally we were thinking about building Shrine in the middle. So that disappearing around the back.
Right.
Because it was originally designed by Paolo
Right,
to come
to
out
go
of
out
one
of the
window
line,
and
right,
then
and that's
another.
why I'm asking,
Yeah, and so if we build something in the middle, that was the original intention. It would be beautiful.
Because then we kind of see you, but kind of not see you.
Yeah, even
Right.
if it's the windows, going
Yeah.
behind the windows.
I think it'd be beautiful.
To have something emerging
So the
from.
piano will be in front of this?
We've worked with different models. Yeah, this is one that I think is particularly interesting. And then we're also doing a similar one like this with the musician. I don't like playing forward to the audience because no one can see the keys.
I want people to see his hands.
It's really beautiful to witness that. So it's most likely some kind of sideways orientation.
So are you sitting on the chair the whole time during the show, and this is the only time it moves?
Oh, no.
Then
I'll get strapped in and then start this piece. Something unique about the piano is that it has, of course, a low to a high register. You know, so why not capitalize on that? As the orbit moves through its rotation, to move across the register of the piano and have that be a deliberate part of the rotation of this piece. That while I'm sitting on the chair and going around very slowly, I will be strapped in and leaning down, and as soon as I can reach that first note, I will engage that first note. It'll slowly climb, and as I come around, I'll be able to engage more notes. Play with both hands. As it's pulling me away, I will continue to reach until it pulls me off the instrument, very slowly. And so that's the vision for the piece, and then there'll be a period of silence after I play that last note. And the audience will be held in that silence because no one will know what's happening if there's more music and more sound. And at some point in that rotation, we'll introduce another high sound, like a bell, and then slowly go back to the low register, most likely with a bass drum. And that'll result with me coming back around and starting on the low register again. So it's going to be a cycle of me working to the high frequencies, and then the rest of the orchestra working us back to the low register for the next cycle. We'll do 2 or 3 cycles of that and see how it goes.
So Shrine, in terms of the crew to install the set pieces, are you bringing people with you? I heard you say that you had a crew working with you. You got some people.
He's got some songs. He's got a crew.
Got your peeps.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm planning that around putting this stuff together that week.
Yeah.
Of him being here. Yeah, and that's fine. There's other things to plan for and around, and if I can just leave that to that element to that week of planning, that's fine. Yeah. I think that's okay.
Super.
Just so you know, it's our aerial performer. Fell off a rig and broke both their feet.
That's not
So one of them has to be reconstructed. Yeah. So we've had to switch the whole production around because she was my main performer. We're not taking her out of the show. We're redoing. She's obviously not going to be doing trap, but we're going to have her do a piece. We're going to crawl in.
She's in a group piece.
Yeah, we're making a group piece because this is what the piece is about.
I took a fall during a rehearsal for another piece, and basically I broke both of my heels pretty badly. I had surgery on this one, and it definitely kind of changed the whole course of my life completely. There was just no question with Stas and Goyo. Immediately it was just like, great, yeah, well, whatever you can do, you know, and if it was me just sitting there, they wanted that. And this show it's been a huge part of my healing process. Because I had a really intense experience coming out of surgery. And so that's kind of what this piece is built around, is in the whole accident, but with coming out of surgery and losing something and also refinding something, rediscovering something deeper and more authentic and simpler, you know, and it all happened with that first breath out of surgery that I took on my own. And in that breath I gasped, you know, for something greater, I think. So I breathed in a new stage of my life. Like the ability to retake your first breath, you know, is a pretty powerful one. So that's kind of what happened in that moment, and that's kind of what the piece is revolved around. And it's allowed me to share this story and share this experience, which is probably the single most powerful experience I've ever had in my life. And having that, like, I don't know, deepened connection with everything around me is only going to bring my art to a whole new level, and, you know, to really connect with kind of the juice of life, you know, like why we're here and the beauty that's around us in every moment. And in some ways I've never been happier.
She's an amazing spirit.
She's being heroic.
She showed up yesterday here, and it's just healing for all of us, just to see her courage, working through it, and her giggling. In spite of everything, she's like, you know, crawling around the floor. Spinning around! Yeah, it's so beautiful. You see,
And then yesterday, my other performer got hit by a car.
Oh no!
Yes,
Michael's okay.
He's okay. But I did tell them, you know, that you don't have to take the title first breath, last breath so literally. Yeah.
From my standpoint, as a music director, I wanted to then evolve the orchestra and find the musicians. In terms of selecting the musicians, it was an interesting process because I knew that I wanted people that, of course, very good in their instruments, but there's less about someone's technical proficiency. No, instead, it's, I want this intention, this is what we're looking for, we know it's going to be in this key, I want A minor, but the occasional C to bridge us and then, you know, give us a good A again every once in a while to remind us of where we, you know, where home is. And working with musicians to know exactly what I'm talking about takes a certain degree of maturity and also a certain degree of playfulness and spontaneity.
I love that. Those sound so great together. That contrasting pitch drops. For me, Butoh is very textural. So that's like a really meaty place for me to go into, because for me, like, textures and like physical sensations are really tied together, especially like sonic textures that you can feel in your body that's not just sort of pitch based. And I was collaborating with Anastazia since she came to San Francisco. I really like this ambient sort of alien landscape thing, which feels really nice with some of the costume ideas and the performance direction that she goes in, I think. So what I'm doing here a lot is underscoring some elements of what the musicians are doing. A lot of it's already sampled their instruments or their phrases, and I'm taking a sound that is familiar and tweaking it slightly so it becomes a little bit unnatural, but still related to the familiar thing, but in a way that kind of like makes you, like makes your brain do a little twitch and wonder what's going on. And I mean, ideally, it's bringing a sound more into an interior level where your mind sort of opens up in different ways. But as far as this group of musicians goes, I'm definitely the most musically retarded of the bunch. I can handle the computers really well. They're the really good musicians.
You know, those two and a bell, I think would be a really
these
good
are
idea.
light too. You know, these are super light for their size. So this could be just, you know, someone just walking around.
Some people could someone could actually just hold it and you could play it.
Yeah.
That's hot. I like that.
Daniel is very unique in that he makes a lot of his instruments. He's a fantastic improviser, and he listens extremely well. These are all qualities that I wanted, not just someone who could play what I put on a page and put in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we can pick some bells. You know, we could like swing it around, get that. You got the sound matters.
Magic happens.
Magic happens. Imagine a world. No. Yeah, that's
sweet.
Work, though.
That's beautiful. Say those other two again.
Well, these two are the brother sister.
Would you have those on stage to play them as a couple? Yeah, I guess.
My inspiration, well, kind of everything. I mean, the way the little interconnected things that kind of bind everything together. But really just, I'm just thinking like, what does that sound like? What does it feel like? How does it perform? How does it vibrate, resonate? Walk around with a bag full of sticks all the time, banging on things. But I think it's just, you know, finding that really out there, powerful, universal force and bringing it into a small handheld area where you can experience it in 3 dimensions.
How are you going to rig all of these? Because I mean, there's so many genres.
I don't think they need to happen all at the same time. I think
you have like an elegant way of like switching them without making lots of noise.
Yeah, well, the idea is that so these 3 big bowl things and this bowl happen on the bass drum. Yeah, different sections. I'm thinking the saw blades will be just a good, because it's very visual as well. It could be part of some more of a handheld thing, you know, especially when you get like muting it and throwing the sound around, you get that Doppler, some kind of, it could be very performance-based, you know.
Yeah, I want Stas to hear some of this later and demonstrate some of this stuff, because as we finish the storyboard this week, we want to weave some of this in.
Totally.
The movement.
Yeah, that's
you moving through the space.
Yeah.
As a performer.
That's why I think these.
What working with Bad Unkl Sista is providing is this channel to really find this authentic music that has always been happening, and I've never known how to bring it out of myself. And working with Anastazia in particular, she's so fantastic at granting permission to really go to that place. To just, what does it feel like when you can be completely authentic, completely truthful, when all the limits have been taken off?
If it would work on the floor without damaging it, it would be really cool to just come out on the floor and do it.
Yeah, in fact, we could put together a couple. And
just go around. Do you have several of them? Can you get
those? Are easy to make.
Because yeah, if you went around and did stuff like that,
and just let them.
Dude, that's the orbit piece.
The music itself, instead of a score, a traditional score where every note is defined, they turned out to be more like art sketches too. It's like, here's some melodies, here's some shapes, here's a feeling, here's an intention. And now let's work with that and see where that takes us. And so forget everything we've prepared, because the most beautiful thing might occur when we've let go of all of that, when we've released all of that. And I wanted musicians that could help us go there. And so the way Orbit's going to start is Daniel's going to set this in motion on the stage somewhere. Right, and then look, and then wait, and then he's going to go and start another one. And another one, maybe 3, and then go back and forth and keep hitting them and spinning them. And then, right before I touch the piano, there's going to be 3 people. And right before I touch the piano, it's going to be... Yeah. And then I start.
Yes.
And then after I'm done with the piano, it's like... Because there's silence. Positioning. And then, again. That's the whole Orbit piece. It's beautiful. Just that.
The whole idea is that everybody has their own
spirals
orbit.
and circles. Yeah.
So the dancers that have their own gong, they have their own orbit. Gongs have their own orbit. It could be in different directions, you know? And it could even be like within one orbit, you've got another, you know, larger orbit, you know.
Wow, so you guys are, you are coming up with material for First Breath, Last Breath, and for the next big piece we're doing, right?
Yes.
I mean, look at, I mean, really.
Every piece started off with a seed. It was a melody or an instrument or actually a choreography.
You know, this kind of sound would be really great for a duet with Monica and Apple, because it's just that, it's like that ceremonial.
First time I worked with stars was at Spider Ball last year through a recommendation of a friend. Quite challenging because I felt like I'm the newest kid in the block, you know. But as I said, I was welcomed with open arms and just very, very privileged for to be selected by Anastazia to join her company and to be a part of this production.
Wanted to ask you about the choreography for a minute, just so everyone understands the contour of the piece. Because what happens in this particular case, what we did, is we built it to a really beautiful pitch, I feel, but it was about 4 minutes too early. Hey, we got through this place, we just got through too quickly. And so, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying, like, the second time I come in, I think I should just keep it the octave lower.
Okay.
Because I think that pushes it, like, as soon as I come in with the upper octave, it pushes it into this sort of, like, realm, you know what I mean?
Do you feel it should never go there?
No, I think it should definitely go there, but I think it should go the third time, not the second.
I came across Anastasia working in San Francisco, so she has asked me to sing a couple of times with her troupe, and that's how I came to do this. And it's very different than what I usually do. I'm opening this piece with her singing just a very traditional piece, a Handel aria. You know, that feels really comfortable to me, that's what I do. But in this piece, I've been part of like the band, which I don't usually do, where it's been more improvisation. And at first I was pretty nervous about that, because I'm used to being given a score, and you know, I think all classical musicians love being told exactly what to do in some respects. So yeah, at first I was pretty nervous, but it's turned out to be super fun, and I love it.
We've been extremely open to collaboration by our dancers and our musicians and other collaborators, where they've brought in their ideas while also guiding the process.
Just come through and like build your own piece in there. Maybe similar melodic material that you're doing each time. And just take as much time as you want because we have the time.
It's actually really interesting. I mean, my original training, like most of us who play viola, is as a classically trained musician, which, you know, classical musicians generally don't improvise. It's usually far more structured than anything like this. But I met Stas years ago when I was working with another collaborator, and it was somewhere in there that I started writing music for Stas's Butoh. And so I actually have a body of work that, for solo viola, that sprang out of that. And it's really close to the heart of what this is. A lot of similarities that run through them. And I think working with her over the past 5 or 6 years, on and off, has really influenced my style as a composer. So it's a pretty easy confluence in that I ended up writing one piece for Carl to solo with, and that's just a further outgrowth of that same project that I've been working on that's sort of all Stas's fault at some level. So it kind of just coming full circle in many ways. Goyo has a vision for what he wants it to sound like, and he's worked really closely with Stas as well. And Stas knows what sort of feelings she wants to evoke, and she can speak very clearly about that, or about what works for her and what doesn't.
And so the musicians that we're working with, they know their instruments very well. They're also very sensitive to the needs of working with dancers. So it's not just listening with their ears, which we do as musicians, but to listen with their entire bodies. So listening with our eyes as well, which musicians that do work with dancers or in the theater do understand that. We listen with our entire bodies because we have to respond to what is going on. That's bigger than the music itself. It's not music for music's sake. And so in this production, it's so wonderful to be offering that music with musicians that do understand that, so then we're all listening with our bodies. And really, there's no boundary between the dancers and musicians at that point. We're all performing, we're all offering together.
But then when I would just watch him and when we would come up, boom, you know, that was what
And I also will react to that
okay.
as well.
All right.
I mean, because I'm hearing, so if you guys go, I'll go with you.
Okay, all right.
I mean, that's a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about bringing the element of Butoh-inspired work. That's very, very important. For me, when I experience Butoh, watching it, I feel it from inside when I'm watching a dancer. It's not a superficial experience I'm having. Many times I try to sit towards the back because when I watch Butoh or experience a Butoh performance as they're moving, even if they're not moving, and especially when they're not moving very much, the presence that they bring forward from the depth of where they're bringing their work, I know that I'm like, I can't sit still. Like different times I've had people tap me because I'm interrupting because I'm watching Butoh from the inside out. And I feel that this is one of the really amazing elements of this form that brings to us something that we actually experience. We're not just watching. It's a conversation. It's always a conversation. And I think that's one of the things that people shy away from experiencing it, because it goes to all of these levels of depth that you may or may not be ready for and not want to look at. And I think that is absolutely necessary in our society today, because we are so inundated on a daily basis with things coming at us all the time, that we have a practice as humans of just not paying attention, not having to look, and being able to just shut things out. And I think that the Butoh blasts things wide open, and you can't hide. You can't hide when you're experiencing a Butoh-based piece. There's no place to run. I don't dance because I want to. I dance because I have to. It's the only way for me to be sane in this world is to move. and to move all of my thoughts and feelings. And it's, for me, a language. There are no words that cover what my dance can say.
So let's go and do this massive opera scale production and take all of our favorite dancers and musicians and Shrine building the set and our friend Paolo bringing his sculpture, and let's bring everyone together and let's see what happens when we combine and collect all of these wonderfully talented, gifted, and generous people and put them all in the same space to see what happens. And this is what's come out of it.
I feel so honored to still be able to be a part of this piece.
Great to be part of this production and, you know, and being part of this company.
There's a certain like freedom in this that I don't ever get.
It's been a really good process. I love what's happening with it.
And it's been a wonderful time working with these people. There seems to be just lots of interconnectivity and strong relationship between these people. So I feel really honored to be here.